Go ahead.
All right. Hi, Jayshree.
I,
Thank you so much for coming and spending this time chatting with me. I really appreciate it. For making the time. I know how busy you are, and I really appreciate you doing this. So, do you have your cup of coffee ready with you?
I do.
That's wonderful. And what I'm going to do is pour myself my cup so that, and then settle back nicely and have a chat with you as we go. Here's to life.
Here's to life.
Nothing like a sip of coffee. So, Jayshree, if you when you're holding this brew in your hand, and if you can just hold it in your hand, can I just see it? Lovely. And if you just close your eyes with it, keep it in both your hands and close your eyes and tell me what image comes to your mind. Any image.
A garden in front of me and a big image of Ganesh, which I have at home, but there's a big one in the garden.
Wow.
Of my own garden.
Okay. All right. Thank you. When you can open your eyes whenever you want to.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. So this image, can you talk to me a little bit about it?
I've never had it, this image, ever.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about it?
I love the image of the garden in front of me because I spent anything between 5 to 8 hours a day here. It's in the garden. But this suddenly, when you asked me, what do I see? I suddenly saw this. I have a small image, a small thing, murti of Ganesh at home. And the same one became very, very large. So I have to honestly say it's just beautiful because it's lovely, colorful, it's so well proportionate and greatly designed. The image that I have, but and obviously the same kind of got replicated there. So I guess there is beauty, there is symmetry, there is color, there is charm because it's sitting in the middle of the garden and open. Yeah.
So, beauty, symmetry, color, charm, and in the middle of the garden. What do these words mean to you? What is beauty? In your life, what translates into beauty? And you can look at me. You can look at me. Look into the camera.
Yeah. Okay. So, what does beauty mean to me? Music, loved ones, integrity, passion, aesthetic, all of that.
What else?
What else beauty means to me?
No, how does it all knit together for you? In life, how does it all knit together for you?
It's just life, right? Life and living. And I guess constantly, I won't say constantly in search of, but could be in search of, like passion and integrity and all. It's just being. Love in relationship is experiencing or feeling. Symmetry and aesthetic is external beauty. So it's internal, entirely to like integrity, and that is entirely internal to me. love and relationship is with others, and beauty is larger in life. I guess that's how I would describe it on the spur of the moment. Yes.
So it's really very, very beautiful what you say. It's about I and the other and the environment that contains the I and the other.
Yeah,
Would that be?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that environment could be relatively just existing now. It could be the universe. It could be just as wide and large as possible. But yes, when I think of beauty in external environment, it could go as far as looking at the star-filled sky. It could be, expanses of grass and meadows. It could be in the middle of a forest. That beauty could be a beautiful human being. So,
Yeah, it's very varied, the expression of beauty.
yeah,
Yeah. But the thing is beauty, right? It's,
yeah.
yeah, right. So as you reflect, if I was to ask you to reflect on your life, and you've lived some, Jayshree, uh, talk to me a little bit about your journey, about some of the highs. Uh, how do you see it? If you were to be like a third party view of your life, what do you see? What do you see about Jayshree? What do you see Jayshree as?
It may be most easy for me to kind of do a few instances, but in a kind of chronological manner. So
You're my guest, be my guest,
yes,
whatever.
okay. So I guess just the recognition of my own identity, and possibly when I was 6 or 7 years old, and changing my own name, whatever was given me, to making it my own, and going and telling my class teacher to say, I'm Jayshree. So I think that is one of the things in terms of recognizing myself, I recall. Few years down the line, so
I'm 1 second. I'm coming in here. So you mean that your name did not work for you, and you decided to go to your teacher and tell her to change your name,
yeah,
and that worked. Jayshree
yeah.
worked forever. Okay.
Well, it has worked. But at times I think that now it could have been different. I mean, now, meaning when I was 50s or 60s or something. But yes, so far it has worked for me. Yeah, I have never felt that I should just absolutely get rid of it.
That's amazing. Go ahead. I'm so.
Yeah. Then so when I'm not getting into specific in academics and school.
No.
But I think one of probably the most defining moment of my life is what I recall. It was probably in 7th standard or so, I mean age-wise, I would say. And I was walking back home from school, right? And we lived on the coast, so we could literally see the ocean in front of me. But as I was walking, there were clouds I still remember that experience of few seconds. There were white clouds in the sky, in the blue sky, and I was late coming home. And so I think almost halfway through my walk, I was worried, what will my mother say, and she'll be unhappy and angry, and what will happen. And so I was obviously walking fast. And then suddenly I stopped, looked at the sky, looked at these clouds, and told myself, I don't think I used those words because I didn't probably have the vocabulary, but I remember the experience which basically talked to me saying, in human life, the end is the death. And if you're not worried about that, don't worry about anything else. It doesn't matter.
That's beautiful.
And I think till date, that has worked for me. I'm absolutely fearless because of that moment.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. When I think about it, and I said that was to me is possibly one of the most spiritual experience.
Wow.
And so literally in 10 seconds, I stopped, I looked at the sky, I looked at that, I remember that whole scene and said, there's nothing fearful about it. For human life, death is the thing. And it doesn't matter. You know? Anyway, so that has helped me all my life. So if you ask me what makes Jayshree, is being fearless. Right? Uh, then a lot of joys in terms of course, eternally for my mother's love. So I think what makes Jayshree is that love. And just you know, the readings, the music, uh, experiencing everything in, you know, moving from a small, literally like a village place, but a great school, but in a village, and moving to a city, getting into university, experiencing everything with a great amount of joy. Falling in love, absolutely, uh, yeah, incredible life. Um, and a constant, should I say, the intensity. You know, when I talk about integrity, there's also a whole intensity on one hand of love and emotions, and on the other hand, just the intellectual curiosity to want to know everything, to find out everything, to interact with everything, whether it's human beings, whether it's books, whether it's new knowledge, whether it's learning new things, but doing. And and in some ways, not in my head or in my heart, but externally, I do believe, and I reflect on that. To say it became for many other, not many others, but people who loved me and significantly loved me, it became a kind of contradiction for them to deal with that intense emotion, which meant like all consuming on one hand. And that was true for me also, but in that moment, the very next moment, I could be intellectually curious and just go into something. And two, I think I made, I don't even want to say I made their life difficult, but I made it uh, challenging for people around me to to relate to me, to grapple with me, right? And I don't look back with either anger or you know, compassion possibly, but not with any kind of judgment. But I reflect and see it is me who created that as a stimuli for them to be able to respond to. I thought it was kind of challenging for people around me very often.
I'm so intrigued by what you're saying. And it's not the first time I'm hearing this, of course, Jayshree, given our long connect and relationship for so many years of knowing each other and working with each other. But I'm, in this capacity, thinking about it now. Do you see it as a paradox? When people are seeing it as a paradox, but what do you see it as?
So internally, it has never bothered me, ever. I see that as interestingly, very interestingly, I see it as a continuum. Right? And in some ways, things like uh, music or what do I want to say, humor. Those things, in a way, kind of connect the two in my way of being. To say you could be intensely emotionally in a moment, and something, gives the layers to your that, whether it's intellectually stimulating, it is new experience. So no, so it hasn't been a paradoxical for me, but that in some ways, in response to the question, what makes Jayshree? I think these are the things which I feel makes me.
Yeah, that's unique, and it's obviously a gift. And I really do believe I come from the perspective, Jayshree, of each individual has something very different and very new to add to humankind.
Absolutely.
And
Totally.
that is what totally, makes me very curious to see what facet are you bringing in? What's your color? What's your flavor? What's the fragrance? And I think it's about celebrating and saluting that. That's the whole,
True.
the reason for Coffee and Soul, and so when you talk about that, okay, so talk to me a little bit about your school in a village, you said, but a lovely school. What I mean,
So this is a school which was in the area of 400 acres of land.
Yeah.
It had farm, but all of the products that grew there was used for, it was a residential school for boys. My father had farms and orchards just literally on the boundary of it. And because he himself had been in freedom fighting and stuff, he basically offered to this, after partition, this school had come up because it was close to Karachi, and the Indian government gave land to the same institute in India, in this particular space. And so my father actually was in Bombay in those days, and moved partly with respect to this gentleman who had founded the institute, to say, I will administer and manage all your property, but mainly the farms, because he was an agriculturist by education. And he had his own farms and orchards all around. So in that capacity, so there were a few girls from the neighborhood, from the villages around and stuff. So I think there were like in all 380 boys and about 12 or 13 girls in the whole
that's
school.
amazing. Yeah.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Including my own brothers were there in the school. And the school was based on Gandhian principles. So it was just beautiful. It was the whole day. It was residential. So starting from 5 in the morning till 9:30 at night was the whole schedule. And we all followed it. So the classrooms were beautiful. They were only half walls, not fully, but beautifully constructed, independent units. Each class was independent units spread across the thing, and having mango trees right around it everywhere, wherever you looked at it. And if you walked a little further, you could go into orchards of badam and all kinds of chiku, and obviously lots of coconut because we are on the coast. And so good. So we could wander around anywhere at any time. Safety was never ever a concern. My parents, half the time where I was, our school started at 9 o'clock in the morning. There was no system of ringing a bell. So you had 8:45, the news started, and that basically was a signal that begin to get together for an assembly. So you could listen to the news and then just get on with it, and everybody would come together at 9 o'clock. So from 9 to 11:30 was school in the morning, then you took a break, you went home for lunch, all that. Came back at 2 o'clock, 2 to 4:30 were again classes, 4:30 to 5:30 were games, sports and other things. Then we went home after 5:30. The boarders went back, had a bath, got ready, went for walks, or had the free time, had their meals, so did we. And then there were evening prayers. And after that there was homework time for 1 hour. And then kids
Sounds really beautiful.
Absolutely delightful. It was delightful.
Yeah. But tell me, are
no pressure, no examinations.
Amazing. Yeah. So you, I know, work in the field of education, and you've been working in education now for many, many years. I don't want this to be a work conversation, but I want to understand from you your passion for education. What drives you? Uh, so many, you're in the 7th decade of your life, and you're still so driven to continue to work in education. What what drives you? What's the thing, Jayshree? What doesn't let you hang up your boots? You're constantly doing so much in this field, still so relevant and so sought after. What drives you?
So I want to start by saying it could be as prosaic as I'm habitual. It needn't be anything esoteric, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, from time to time, I reflect on it, and I think it's not even about learning math, science, language. It's not even about academic excellence or children must study. All of those are parts of it, possibly. I think the most important to me is all human beings must have opportunity to grow as they would wish to do. Now there are some sadhan, there are some things which need to be with you in order to be able to explore that world.
So some tools.
Some tools.
Correct.
And I think the not all of the tools, but some tool sets do come from education. So let's say, for example, reading. To be able to understand numbers, to be able to understand the environment around you, right? Social, cultural, natural, all that. Those. So when you use tools, you become adept at using the tools.
Sure. Yeah.
So the schooling is a practice to use the tools in a structured manner that it gets created. But my hope is, and so I mean, partly I have to say I owe it entirely to my own schooling, right? That it gives you tools and mechanism to explore life the way you would like to. Now, whether I want to, by reading a simple small book or by Lev Ullman on changing, right? The name of the book is Changing. You read that, somebody in Sweden who's an actor, the way in which she explores life, I would have never known it if I didn't know how to read.
Yeah. So what enriches you in life will be lost. Yeah.
Yes, I won't have those tools to be able to explore experience life. Yeah. And to me, education means exploring human potential. How do we enable the human being, at least to an extent, I won't say entirely, but to an extent, how do you enable a human being to be able to see this beauty of this universe and what all it offers, human, animal, otherwise, man-made, God-made, nature, natural creation, whatever. And I think that's possibly the only big answer I can give. The rest could be just habit.
I love the big and the small. Joe, what is, all of us in our lives have some low points. Some low points.
Yes.
Are there anything, is there anything that you'd like to share on that? What were some of, and how did you, my whole idea is not to kind of dwell. My idea is to look at it and say, how did you navigate it? What did you do? What did you learn from those instances? And what did you do to move into another space? So anything that you could reflect back on and I'm happy to share.
Yeah. So, some in personal journey of my own, some in professional journey. Let me start with a professional instance in terms of an organization, and you're fully familiar with it.
I worked with you.
Yeah. So Center for Education Management Development. I think it was something which came, once again, I also want to say that while I teach planning and goal setting and, it must be, I have to say most of my life has been unnavigated.
Un
I mean, unnavigated. In the,
unnavigated.
I haven't planned that I will start an organization.
Mm, mm,
Just kind of came about. So in
mm,
any of these things, it's more synthetic way of moving forward rather than a planned analytical way. So analytical way is not necessarily my way. I like to do analysis, but then leave it, and it then happens. So in that organization, one of the truly loved human being, or one of the loved team member, uh, possibly misguided, possibly whatever, or his fate in such a way that it came about that organization almost sunk. And I think for uh, two 2 years and 3 months, I would say about 27 months, I stayed on the organization so that it does not go down, and I'm able to kind of stabilize it at least in a manner that for 3 years or so, this organization won't have difficulty in surviving and moving forward. So was that a low point? Absolutely. Is it something that all my life I feel bad about, that I could not continue with that organization or continue to, do I regret leaving it? No. Am I glad that I stuck around? Yes, that out of principle I feel that yes, I'm glad that I found funding, I stayed on, I made sure, all that. So those are good things to do. But those 27 months were quite very difficult months in my life. How, in terms of navigating it, I have to say, and even in my personal journey, in my personal life, the setbacks and other things, I think two factors have really helped me, and both I see it as God's gift. One is I understand fully that in human life, pain is inevitable. You will have, one will have pain. Pains will come in your life, whether it's loss of people in your life, it could be loss of wealth, it could be loss of prestige, it could be the pain is inevitable. Misery is not. So, as individuals, we make choice to remain miserable or not remain miserable.
Absolutely.
And that can I avoid pain? No. It could be caused by me, it could be caused by others, it could be caused by circumstance, larger universal factors, national factor, whatever those might be. I can't avoid that. Do I need to remain miserable? No. So even in my personal losses in terms of relationship, Ashok's passing away, starting with my parents passing away, my mother passing away to start with. Have I enjoyed life after that? Have I been happy after that? Yes. Does it, the other piece, so that one is I don't want to be miserable. But it's not even so much I tell that myself, it's just my temperament.
Sure.
The other part is I don't believe in feeling guilty. It's not that I never feel guilty, I do. But I always ask myself, what could you do now to change that rather than regretting 10 years back what you did and 5 years back what you did and how terrible it was. And so I have made mistakes and I feel guilty about it for a short while. But then I immediately ask myself, what do I need to do to overcome that? If it is other people whom I have disappointed or done anything wrong with them, then I try to make good with those individuals.
That's very life affirming, Jayshree. I think that's beautiful.
So those two things have helped me not to remain miserable and not to feel guilty and make good, do something, not to feel guilty, not out of carelessness.
Sure.
Of consciousness to say, if you know that you did something which is causing this, rectify it, do something to make good. So I think once you begin to do that, the regret goes away. It's filled more with compassion, and compassion for yourself, but also for whatever.
You know, you've been a great leader to many. You've been a mentor, you've been a guide, you've been a trainer, you've been a coach. You've been a support, and so many people so look up to you still in various aspects of your life. Um, it's a very blessed state, isn't it, Jayshree, to have this kind of a. What's your take on that? What do you think about that?
I, I mean, what, as you say, and that possibly could be true in terms of the people who come, or, I have to say the way I see it
Mm,
is, I see it as, it is their love for what you bring into their life, not so much who you are, or how much knowledge you have or whatever. It's what you bring to their life. And very often I think it is of course it may be the centrality could be new knowledge, new information, new ways of doing things. So like a more information
mm,
or knowledge, but to me it is the manner in which it is provided. And that manner which I'm talking about is also not something physical or visible, or but I think it is uh, that's how I think it, and I hope I'm right.
mm,
And it's the love and compassion with which it happens. And I didn't know that before. It I have begun to understand that in last 15, 18 years. Before that, it was because I do know that even in my early career, there were people who would just love me, who were my colleagues, or who were, or even my students. They would truly love me. And I never paid any attention to say, why do they? I just thought that's how it is. I
mm,
didn't realize it, that it was. Then I think in over years, so in possibly in last 15, 18 years, that I began to realize it's what appeals to people is that connect that you make, that love for that other human being, right? Which which is what's that relationship, which is untold, unarticulated. There are no words. I don't use data and data and those kinds of words with professionally, at least, ever. So I just get that I think they, and I don't even attribute that to myself. I attribute to that human spirit that they are able to connect to me. So
mm,
I see it more than anything else that I give them.
mm, mm. Yeah, totally. I hear you, and I understand exactly what you're saying. I think I do. But what if I was to ask you, what's the unique, and you're pretty much saying that unique lens, what is it that you bring, you think, which is totally unique to you? That you're asked, there's no other Jayshree Oza in this world. There's just one. What is that unique something that she brings that no one else does? What facet of the multifaceted, if I have no other words to say, but if I was to say, think of the universe or God, or two, so many angles and so many facets, like a diamond, no? So many. What facet are you?
Of the universe,
Mm-hmm.
I would say love, compassion, and integrity.
Mm. Love, compassion, and integrity. Mm. Mm. And if I was to ask you, what is your legacy? What are you leaving? What will you leave behind? What do you think it will be?
What I would like to, I would say, I don't know what I will leave behind, I don't know. I would like to leave behind a smile on faces when they think of me, and a glimmer in the eye.
It's beautiful.
That's what I would like to leave behind.
Mm. I think that's really, really beautiful. And that's the uniqueness of this is when they think of you. And, what else would you like to share with me? Part of your journey.
Nothing really. Nothing really. I think it's good to have the human life, but beyond that, if you're born, you do, you be, and you go. So there isn't, I don't even particularly believe that you, meaning you as an individual or a karta, you are doing anything. It's just a part of the cycle. And that's the other thing which keeps me going all the time, is to say, I mean, you think of the hundreds of and thousands of years, like a little dot in that whole time span universe. So just be, and while you are there, do. But when you do, it's nothing beyond the being a speck. It's not like that's what life is all about.
That's really beautiful. Is there a metaphor that you'd like to leave us with? Anything that you've lived by. It can be anything, a piece of poetry or song, or anything that you has been like almost like a banner for you, like a metaphor for life.
In my case, there will be too many. So,
is there one that stands out to you?
Just live by your own truth.
I've really enjoyed this conversation, and just
Thank
to
you
be
for
able
having
to
me.
and just to be able to glimpse into the vast journey that we've tried to cover. And there's so much more, and I know that, but just trying to cover the high points and the low points, just what makes you you, what drives you, and really appreciate your sharing this with me. And I hope it's been an interesting experience for you as well.
Of course.
Yeah. And
idea for reflecting, so it was beautiful, very nice.
Very happy to hear
having
that.
Me.
It's a pleasure, Jayshree. Thank you for coming in and sharing and being the first person I've interviewed for Coffee and Soul. And maybe the Ganesha was there to bless this venture.
How did we arrive there? Right? Think about it. But very best wishes. This will be a grand success. What a unique idea to start with. So take care. Lots of love.
Thank you, Jayshree. Take care. Be safe. And thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure.
Bye.